ready for another lesson?
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Back Row Banter, your favorite casual movie talk podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Schwartz, and on this week's episode, we'll be talking about the movie The Boy and the Heron. But of course, before we get to any of that, I'm joined today by Heron Nathaniel Ginger.
What up, folks? I'm Heron Nathaniel. I've got long, spindly legs and big wings. Weird thing, if you didn't know that about me, but yeah, I do have clawed feet and large wings.
Right.
But
it doesn't show up on the Back Row Banter graphic. It just cuts off the head
because that is just
below the head.
Yeah. And if you hit his number 7 feather, flight feather, you're fucked.
I'm wild.
Completely fucked.
I'm wild.
Yeah.
And I'm gray.
And you're gray.
I'm entirely gray.
Also joining us today is Parakeet Tyler Verdalis.
Yo, those dudes were fucking weird.
They were wild.
Yeah, they were kind of weird, bro.
I've
what a
never
weird,
been,
villain.
I've never been more scared of a parakeet in my life.
Yeah, same.
But
Cute, though.
if you're ever watching a Studio Ghibli film and you don't think something's weird,
that's when you know.
Yep.
It's not a Studio
It's not a Ghibli film. Yeah.
Yeah. You're watching Your Name and you're sadly mistaken.
Yep. You're watching something else.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a staple.
Yeah, if there's not a freaky little guy in there
somewhere,
it's not a Ghibli.
If you don't think that someone spiked your food with mushrooms, you're not watching the right movie. Rounding out the squadron, of course, is Big Boy BlakeHolder.
What up?
Just
boy.
the big boy. Just
Yeah,
the big
man.
boy.
Yeah, Blake, what age were you when you quit being a boy?
I mean, okay, let's break it down then. I mean, realistically, it's got to be 12.
12, 13, right? Yeah.
12, 13 is kind of where I'm
preteen?
immediately.
Was that when you
maybe.
hit your like growth spurt? Like, what grade were you in when you were all of a sudden 6'2"?
Okay, my dad's tall though. My dad's 6'6" and my mom is 6 foot.
Wow.
So I didn't really feel tall till I passed my mom, and that was like, I was probably got to that point like my freshman year of college.
Wow. Okay.
Senior year of
Oh,
high
okay.
school. Yeah. So prior to that, my mom was just always like, yeah, like, I'll beat your ass. But, like, joking, of course. And then finally, when I got taller than my mom, then it was kind of like, all right, you're an adult.
I'm
what I
a
mean?
fucking man, Mom. You can't talk to me like that.
Right. That's actually exactly have a conversation with. No, I'm joking.
See, I hit 6 foot in 7th grade. So like,
holy shit, no. I mean, I was tall, but I wasn't. I didn't have that story.
I genuinely grew like 6 inches over one summer. Like
I did too.
I have like stretch marks on my legs from like where I just grew too fast, basically. Like I just ended up with stretch marks down my legs, basically. But yeah, I passed my mom in height in 4th grade. I passed my dad in height in 6th grade.
So how tall is your mom though? Your mom's got to be what, probably 5'5".
My mom's like 5'4". Yeah, she's
five nothing.
Yeah, she's not a big person. My dad's like 5'10", 5'11". So like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's around the height of my parents too, and I had the same thing happen to me at 6th to 7th grade. Or no, sorry, I think it was 7th to 8th grade. I was probably like 5'4", 5'5" at the 7th grade, and it came into the 8th grade like 5'11", 5'10", around there. And then I think I stopped growing a lot, at least. Stopped growing at like sophomore year of high school. I finished up at 6'2", and like I've probably grown a little bit since then. Everyone says I've grown. I'm like, I don't know. I just keep saying
just
I'm
wear
6'2".
tall shoes.
I could probably pass the 6'3" and no one would bat an eye, but I still say 6'2". It makes everyone who's shorter than 6'2"
I think we
feel
all
bad.
can.
Yeah.
Nathaniel said he
Yeah,
went to the
we're
doctor
all
one
good
time,
here.
and the doctor told him he was 6'3", and I was like, well, I feel like we're either like the same height or I slightly out height. So I'm like, I'm 6'3" now.
Genuinely, yeah. The doctor. Last time I went to the doctor, like, you're 6'3" now. I was like, fuck, you're
you
wrong.
go.
I am not.
Fucking ain't right. I am.
Yeah. I always give the quick answer of like, how tall are you? I just say 6'2".
Yeah.
I always
I
say
just say
6'2".
Yeah. Who is the tallest of us though? Have we ever like?
Ooh,
We have not.
All right, I don't know.
We were together recently, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like Blake's
That's
probably got
actually
us
weird
beat.
that we're all kind of in the
Is, yeah, like
same
right there.
like,
ballpark, though. It's like
It might-
really strange.
Yeah, I think what if we ever do like live shows and we have a large following or anything like that, we go to like a PAX or something and do a panel. I think everyone's just gonna be like, "Holy shit!"
There's 4 big dudes over there.
Four big dudes somehow finding their way together.
Just
to make a
casually
podcast.
talking about movies.
We are probably
tall people stick together.
yeah. If I had to put my money on it, if you look at podcasts,
Ranked
any
by height.
podcast, it ranked by height. I mean, we've got to be up there, right? Like,
There's-
what podcast is an average height of 6'2"?
There's some NBA podcasts where they're all 6'5",
Oh, I
bro.
guess, yeah, they're skewing everything.
All right,
McAfee show.
valid. Yeah, Paul George's podcast.
We're getting fucked
Yeah,
by
okay.
those guys.
Never mind. Yeah. All right.
Heck,
I'll
there's probably
put it
some-
in entertainment.
There's probably some
podcast.
WNBA podcasts that got us beat on that
Oh,
one
yeah,
as well
man.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, those girls can
I
be
went to a
ballin'.
girls' basketball game.
Would you have
Did
guitar?
you? Which one?
UIC.
Oh, okay. So college
Oh,
level.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah, last Friday.
it's not even WNBA.
No.
Oh,
How was that?
There was like nobody there. It was actually like pretty eye opening.
Sure.
Yeah, I was like, we walked in and I saw girls warming up and I was like, babe, is this a girls game? And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, well, there's only girls warming up, so this has got to be
When
ladies'
was
game.
this?
last Friday.
Oh, this is
recent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so Leah cheerlead, she
Oh, of course.
cheerleaded
Yeah,
all
yeah.
through high school, and then after high school,
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
a coach for like 8 years.
Yeah.
It was one of her girls who she taught, and she's glowed up,
Okay.
and she cheers
Yeah, I
for
got you.
UIC. And she was like, "Can you guys come see me?" It's a really sweet girl. She
That's
came
fun.
to our wedding. Her
Sure.
name's Noemi. Shout out Noemi. You'll probably never listen to this, but she invited us out, so we went out there. And yeah, honestly, there was
30 people there.
less than 50 for sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that kind of sucks.
It does.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like there should be more representation, just like
Yeah. It's sports,
friends,
man. Yeah.
family. I'd make everybody go.
Hell yeah.
If I had a girl who played like fucking a female sport and I knew nobody was going, I'm calling all the boys. I'm like, we're fucking going.
We're getting the boys.
We're going. We're gonna be
Showing up,
loud
boys.
as fuck. We're gonna be obnoxious.
Yeah,
We're fucking
hell yeah.
going.
We're gonna record an episode live in the arena.
Yeah.
Can't wait for
Commentating.
Yeah.
for Back Row Banter season 30 when Tyler's daughter
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I know that too well. So Jessica, who you all met,
Yes.
Yeah.
that I brought
Oh,
to,
yeah,
to
very nice.
Tyler's wedding, my homegirl from childhood. She
Shout
played
out
college
Jessica.
basketball. Shout out Jessica. Probably never.
remember her
listened to
telling me
this,
that.
but Shout
Yeah,
out
yeah.
her. But yeah, so she played college basketball. So I've been to a few games. Anytime I'd be home after the football season. For winter break or whatnot, I'll go up there. So yeah, I know that too well for sure, and I'd go
It's
and just
wild.
kick it with her parents and whatnot. It is sad for sure. You
Yeah.
wish that more people would come out, and support
Especially at
stuff
like the
that.
collegiate level, you feel like there would be so much
Right.
more like
Yeah.
student support there,
It's
and there,
not-
dude,
well,
there
yeah,
was
right.
none.
I think it's getting better though, right? Like the ESPN's been making a big push for
I
like
hope
women's
so.
basketball and stuff
Not
like
at
that.
UIC.
Like, true, but maybe some of that NIL money will
Yeah,
help out,
true.
where they can actually
Definitely.
earn money off that now and that kind of thing.
I know Caitlin Clark brought more viewers to the women's NCAA championship than the men's. I think that game had more viewership than the men's championship game.
there
or
you
something
go.
like
I
that.
think I remember seeing something like that for sure.
And
That
dude,
was
I turned
a-
that game
was a
on.
huge one.
Caitlin Clark is electric, dude. She's so good.
Yeah, I actually found
Oh,
myself
so good.
watching the women's Final Four as well too, and I didn't
Yeah.
even watch the men's tournament.
Men's tournament I fell off on a little bit. The Final Four was uninteresting. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, it seems to be
Yeah, man.
climbing up. And to put it in perspective, though, I heard someone talk about this. Like the WNBA is only like 20 years old. Like it was only started.
that is true
Thousands,
for
bitches,
sure. When you do
thousands,
some
like,
research on
You
it.
do need to give it some time to breathe a little bit because the NBA
Yeah.
obviously didn't really take off until like 70s. You know. And
Now I have been to a WNBA game though. I've been to a
Yeah?
Chicago Sky game. That was maybe.
Have you? Where do they play at?
Where I believe it's where DePaul plays. What's it called? Wintrust Arena,
Okay, yeah.
something like that. I believe that's where DePaul.
Yeah, I
plays
think so
plays.
too.
But yeah, I went there 2 years ago, and that was the year after they won the championship. So I mean, that was like a decent crowd, but obviously,
Yeah.
good team.
Good
You know,
program.
so like those things go hand in hand. That's a good organization. They were coming off a championship. I want to say that year. I think they went to the semifinals. Right. I don't know how well they are now. I haven't really followed that much. But yeah, it was a pleasant surprise from like the college games that I've gone to supporting one of my best friends compared to going there. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty dope. You know, it was one of those things that was cool to see. So, yeah.
Off track early. My fault.
Hey, it happens.
Oh, no,
But
this
I
is
was
the
I was
intro.
a little bit of
The intro
a
segment.
curmudgeon before because I hate going to the city, but it was a good time.
Good, man. Did they win?
They did, dude. They beat the shit out of them.
What they
Who did
play?
they play?
I think there's
Is
I think
are they
it's
D1?
oh
Yeah,
they are,
aren't
yeah,
they?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was Chicago State Cougars.
Oh, Chicago State. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and they fucking mollywopped them. Dude, they were up by like double the points almost throughout the entire game. At one point, it was like
Ooh,
62 to
that's a beatdown.
31. I was like, damn,
Yeah. That's a
they're
good
getting
deal.
fucked up.
Are we doing a Back Row Banter outing to a UIC game sometime soon?
Only if we have to. We're there to support the cheerleaders. We'll go see the basketball game.
Yeah,
but we
full
have
spirit
to,
gear.
Yeah, they throw out
Yeah.
T-shirts. We got a T-shirt. So
Oh, we can easily get one of those.
yeah.
Yeah. With our reach, our wingspan combined is like, is greater than anyone else there.
It's like
That's for
32
sure.
feet.
There you go. We're getting a T-shirt, fellas.
Yeah, I don't think wingspan works like that, right? I think you just add them on.
We just chain our arms.
We'd be rolling for
That's
sure.
what I was
yeah.
imagining in my head. Is we make a chain.
Shut up, Blake. It
just-
works. We have a 32-foot wingspan combined with our powers combined.
Put us in the NBA draft. We're coming.
Did you lose your
We're coming,
koozie?
Wemby.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck it. It's just Joe.
Nathaniel's down a koozie.
Yeah,
I am at the moment.
koozie down.
Koozie down.
Koozie
Sorry.
down.
You dropped your rag,
I noticed that.
your do rag.
That I was wearing that today, but that's just to keep my hair, pretty in line.
Rag?
No, the cable that he's using is braided, and it's rubbing on the metal box of the
Roadcaster.
the roadcaster.
Yeah.
And so it was making
Picturing,
noise. So-
Gotcha.
Picturing Nathaniel in a do-rag is fucking
Wavy,
I'm gonna
wavy.
update the graphics with Nathaniel in a do-rag this time.
yeah, right.
And then 6 months take it off, and I've just got the wavy Black Sea, man.
Yeah, right. That's funny as hell.
You got cornrows.
I would not do cornrows. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone does cornrows, dude. That seems painful. Like to keep that consistently together, I don't know.
Tough.
I see a lot of fighters do it.
Yeah.
Speaking
I bet
of
that's
fighters,
better
I
for
don't want to
women.
go
Oh,
any
yeah,
more
it's
into
gotta be. Some
sports,
people
but
don't-
speaking of fighters, Patty beat the shit out of fucking
Tony?
bro.
Patty also had cornrows.
He did, yeah. That's why I was like,
Well, he said he did it because he's got. All right, folks, you're listening.
Sorry.
Now.
Yep.
Yeah. So Paddy Fimblett's a Liverpudlian MMA fighter, but he has very big kind of Beatles hair, although blonde. So every time he would get hit, it would just shake like a lot, and he was like, "I've just felt like people were thinking I was getting hurt worse than I was." So he just cornrowed it the last fight for overall, so that
He
it's just
sugar-showed it.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, poor old
Smart
Tony.
strategy. Yeah.
So yeah, it's fighting. Things help.
There you go. All right, gentlemen. That's enough of sports talk, I think.
I think so.
Yep.
Let's get
As much
into
as
it.
we love to stay in it. Yeah, let's get into our main review here, which is going to be The Boy and the Heron, as I mentioned at the top of the episode. Nathaniel, if the listener here is new or maybe they've just forgotten, can you give them a rundown of how the review segment works?
Oh, you want a rundown?
A riggedy rundown.
A riggedy rundown.
Run them down.
Folks, if you're new or perhaps you've just forgotten, here on Back Row Banter, the way the review segment works is it is split into two sections. There's the non-spoiler section, and then there's the spoiler section. Pretty self-explanatory. In the non-spoiler section, we'll go over the movie itself, who wrote it, who directed it, who stars in it, all that good stuff. We'll go around the squadron, decide if we recommend this movie. It has to be a yes or no. There is no nuance on the internet. And then it'll be spoiler time. I'll play the spoiler noise for you. If you don't want to have anything spoiled for you, go ahead and check the show notes where the time codes will be listed for you, and do come back after our review where we will be ranking the movie up on our Entropy list and do the rest of the episode. But our Entropy list is the big list of everything we've watched on the podcast ranked. I think we're up to 169 movies now on there overall.
True. That is a fact.
This will be 170. Yeah. So,
Fantastic.
Adam, tell me about The Boy and the Heron.
I would love to. This is The Boy and the Heron, of course. A new movie from Studio Ghibli. Or did you pronounce it Ghibli earlier, Tyler?
It
that
is,
the way I
yeah.
should say it?
That's how I've always come up on it. And that's how
Now, is that
will-
official, or is that just how you say it?
I think that's honestly, I don't really know. I've
Yeah.
never really Googled it, but that's like how a majority of people that are in like the anime area, I think, would pronounce it.
I've always
Okay.
Are they a Japanese
They are.
company?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. I'll have to research if it's Ghibli or Ghibli. But I'm not opposed to switching sides. I am a GIF person myself. I don't say GIF. I'm a GIF person. But I could switch to Ghibli out of respect for the films and Hideo, or Hayao. I would switch over to appease him. With that being said, of course, this is a new movie, as I mentioned before, rated PG-13. Not necessarily a kids movie, as I did see some like sub 10-year-olds in our movie, and
Hell
I was
yes.
like, okay.
Yes.
No
Yeah,
idea
I was
what's
like,
going
alright.
on.
No,
Just
they
because
should.
it's not live action doesn't mean it's a kids movie.
They
folks.
probably understand it better than we do.
Honestly,
mean-
probably. And it's got a runtime of 2 hours and 4 minutes and an IMDb rating of 7.7 out of 10. Directed and written, of course, by Hayao Miyazaki, the man, the myth, the legend, of course. If you don't know Hayao Miyazaki, then you don't know anime and you don't know
Shit.
culture. I don't know. Yeah, you don't know. Hayao Miyazaki, if you don't know, has done films like Spirited Away, which we have reviewed. I think this is only our second Ghibli or Ghibli.
It is the only one on here.
Um,
Spirited Away.
Yeah, Spirited Away is the only one we've done, but he's done Howl's Moving Castle, My Neighbor Totoro, Poyo,
Kiki.
Kiki's Delivery
Kiki's
Service.
Delivery Service. What are I don't know.
Oh, there's a
if
bunch
I
of them.
need-
Nausicaa and the Valley and
There's a bunch of
Wind, Castle in the Sky,
Princess Mononoke.
Princess Mononoke.
He's pretty well known, and his movies are pretty fantastic. So this is kind of a big deal if you didn't know.
It's supposedly his
The
last.
cat.
Allegedly.
Supposedly.
Allegedly.
They keep saying it.
Yeah.
Well,
this-
he keeps saying it.
Yeah. If you don't, what was his last one? What was the last one in 2016?
The Wind Rises.
Wind Rises. That was supposed to be his last one, and
Yeah.
then Ghibli gave it to his son. They made some Witch and the Twig movie or
Yeah,
something like
Earwig
that.
and the
was
Witch.
Like 3D, yeah, Earwig and the Witch, and it was like 3D animation. It was really weird animation, and it did not do very well. And then he was like, "All right, son, you failed me," and he took back the reins. I guess I don't know. I doubt that's
Forgot
the story,
Totoro.
but
Miyazaki, like, he reminds me of remember the joke we would say a couple of years ago of like, stop praying for grandpa, he's too powerful now. Like, I think Miyazaki is is too powerful. He is the grandpa that
He's
everyone keeps
grandpa.
praying for,
Yeah.
and can't contain him, man.
I mean, hey man, if he's gonna make another one of these, I'm gonna go watch it. So
It's
I'm
true.
not complaining.
Hand-drawn anime.
The cast includes, and I'm gonna go off the dub cast because that's the screening I saw. Did you guys all see dub?
I was gonna say real quick,
Yes.
we will we'll give some insight here. I did not. I did go see sub.
You did see sub.
I did.
Interesting.
Saw sub.
Yeah.
I have some questions for you then. You also saw sub. Okay.
no,
No,
Tyler did.
no.
Yeah.
I saw dub.
Oh, you saw dub. Blake, I'm
Yeah,
assuming
I
you
saw
saw
the dubbed as well. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to list off the dub cast because I think that's the one most people are excited for because it is a pretty good cast, which includes Luca Padovan is our lead Mahito, but then you also have Christian Bale, Dave Bautista, Willem Dafoe, Mark Hamill, and of course, Florence Pugh. You guys
For
thought I was
Blake.
going to say Arbad.
Robert.
Florence Pugh is here. And then Robert Pattinson is the other big name that we have here. There's more, of course, and a few other relatively big names, but those are the big ones. Those are the title ones that you probably saw on a poster or two.
Yep.
With all of that, and Gemma Chan. I don't know. Did I say that?
No, you didn't.
I want to include her as well. She's here too. With all that being said, then the IMDb summary for the movie reads as follows. A young boy named Mahito, yearning for his mother, ventures into a world shared by the living and the dead. There, death comes to an end, and life finds a new beginning. A semi-autobiographical fantasy for the mind of Hayao Miyazaki. All right,
There you
pretty
go.
decent summary, I would say.
Yeah.
I like how it adds semi-autobiographical.
Yeah,
because
that
that is probably a big piece of this movie that if you don't know should add some context. Nathaniel, I don't know if you want to speak on this, because I've heard a little bit about it. I don't know how much you know.
From what my understanding is, I mean, there's a lot of Ghibli movies that are very close to Miyazaki.
Or Ghibli.
Yeah, or
That's
Ghibli. That are very close to Miyazaki. And I think he puts a lot of himself into just about every one that he does. But I would say Wind Rises and The Boy and the Heron are definitely more of the autobiographical sort. Miyazaki was born at the end, or he did grow up, I should say, towards the kind of tail end of World War II. And so he did experience some of that as well too. He did grow up rich as well, and that was always kind of a piece of his kind of culture growing up, that like, you know, he didn't necessarily feel like that was justified and that kind of thing, which I think comes through a little bit in this movie as well too. So yeah, there are
some of his other movies as well.
Yeah, and I think his dad was, if I'm not mistaken, in some way involved with like the production of planes or something like that as well too. So there are elements that he has drawn in here as well, but I feel like the other kind of, well, no, I don't want to say it's autobiographical, but I want to say that this movie feels very personal to Miyazaki and very much like a piece that he kind of created for his grandson, which I think is kind of the storyline going on here, kind of the area around it, was that this movie was kind of going to be his message to his own grandson and kind of everything like that, and kind of what comes next and that kind of thing, because he is retiring and I know we said like, you know, he can't be stopped and that kind of thing, but this is the first movie from what I understand where he kind of had to direct most of it and didn't actually get to do a lot of the animation. They actually brought in other animators and that kind of thing outside of that, and then they were kind of under his direction more. But I think if you would compare this to like, you know, some of his other movies like A Spirited Away or, you know, even something from a few years ago or a Ponyo or something like that, there is going to be a little bit of a difference between some of those movies and this one as well too. So I think, yeah, this movie has a lot going on in it for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely very personal to Miyazaki. I've heard also that it's somewhat autobiographical in that Miyazaki had some mentors in his life that are kind of some of the lead figures in this movie. There's a kind of a grand wizard that in the dub is Mark Hamill basically, and then there's obviously the Heron, and those are two figures that were in his life. That were inspirations. I don't remember the names off the top of my head. I did read a little bit of an article about this a week or two ago. And then as he was kind of developing the story about that, one of the figures that he was basing the story off of passed away, and he had to step away from the project for a while, and it took him a while to, and it was the figure who played the Grand Wizard or the Grand Uncle. And so he had to step away from the project because it was too painful for him to write. And once he stepped back into the project, decided he couldn't write about that character too much. And so the Grand Uncle initially was a much bigger part of the story, and then kind of took a back seat, and he leaned a little bit more on the relationship between Mahito and the Heron as
that's interesting.
Kind of the actual overall arching story.
I think we'll talk about that a little bit more in spoilers because I have kind of a take on that as well too.
There is also a book that this is also tied to. The original title for this movie is How Do You Live? The book is written by Genzaburo Yoshino.
And from what I understand, it's pretty different overall.
They are.
Yeah.
But there are some obviously slight nuances that ties it back.
And I think this movie's title in Japan is still How Do You Live?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it is changed to The Boy and the Heron for the American version. This movie is originally titled How Do You Live?
And when I heard that Miyazaki was making a movie called How Do You Live, I was like, oh, fuck, man. I'm not prepared
How
to
deep
be...
does the rabbit hole go?
I'm not prepared to be emotionally battered for 2 hours.
So then with all of that being said here, folks, I'm gonna kick it to Ty first, who probably has one of the deeper, obviously anime knowledge just in general, but probably one of the deeper relationships with Ghibli itself. What are you thinking here, Ty?
I enjoyed this a lot. I am clearly the only one that saw it in subs. I can't say that it was completely on purpose. And I will want to see the dubbed version at some point, because how can you not with a cast like that?
Right.
But I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I was one of like, I don't know, 5 people in the theater. It was at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is like what I shoot for.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but I had a really good time. There are a lot of deep cuts in this. There are a lot of things that you won't understand. There are a lot of things that get confusing at some points, but like all Studio Ghibli films, if you kind of know where he's coming from or where his kind of end game is, it will tie into it at some point, and you will kind of get a nice, pretty little bow on it. I will say that as far as Ghibli films go, I will probably always have just a tighter, more kind of sentimental value connection to Spirited Away.
Sure, nostalgia.
over anything.
Yeah.
But this was killer. I had a really good time. The emotional standpoint that you get from somebody that's like our age is pretty incredible. I would love to see this from like a 14-year-old standpoint, like when 14-year-old Tyler saw Spirited Away.
Right.
You know, something of that nature. But yeah, man, it's killer. I don't know how Disney or Pixar or somebody hasn't been like, fuck, like
We're done.
drawn anime is just on another. I know it takes a little bit more work, and by a little bit I mean a lot of it. It is a little bit more painstaking, but it's fucking worth it, dude. The payoff on hand-drawn anime is fucking incredible. The ability that they have, how good this movie looks now and how good this movie's going to look in 20 years is going to stand up to the test of time, and I will always love hand-drawn animes. And so, yeah, I had a really good time with this. I definitely do recommend, if you did watch the dubbed, to go see the subs. Or, you know, whenever it comes out to VOD, that you definitely do both at some point, somewhat close back to back, so you can kind of get the translation. But yeah, I had a really good time. I'm very, 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 very pleased.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick up there since we're just kind of here in the same room with each other. But
We are. I can see you.
This movie wrecked me, man.
Yeah?
Like, yeah, man. It just, I don't know if it was where I was or kind of what headspace I was in, but like, I found this one just so emotionally, like,
It is.
it just, yeah. I left the movie afterwards with kind of just tears in my eyes, but just like happy tears, you know, just like, I feel satisfied, you know.
Yeah.
I think if you're approaching this movie from a Western perspective, like, you will feel lost.
100%.
There is nothing. And I think a lot of Ghibli movies are like this as well too. And a lot of Miyazaki's movies are like this. Like, he is a person that is operating completely outside of traditional Western storytelling arcs.
Yeah, he doesn't
right?
give a shit.
Like, if this movie was made in America, you would have a reason for why Mahito is going into this place and what he can expect there and what dangers he should look out for. And in this version, it's just, he's just there and he's going. And the story unfolds in front of you. And if you're not prepared, I think, or if you're not open to that, then this movie is going to feel very strange.
You'll
and
be lost.
Yeah, and very kind of thing. You need to approach most Ghibli movies, and I think particularly this one, from a very kind of open perspective. And if you do so, it's very rewarding. You know, I think exactly what you said. There's so much in this movie on kind of just a meditation on grief, on growing up, on, you know, the changes that we all experience as we grow up, on just living in the world and what you expect from that, and kind of the cruelty of just the world and nature in general, and how that, you know, may seem kind of inconceivable, but is really just how it all works. And yeah, I think Ghibli overall, and or Ghibli, or however you want to say it,
Or Ghibli.
Just say it how you want to say it. You don't have to say both anymore.
Yeah, and
Pronunciation pending.
I'm not going to judge you.
I think Ghibli
I am.
and Miyazaki. like, I don't think they're concerned with what
No.
other people think about them.
Absolutely
Or
not.
like what other people take from it. He's just like, this is what I am making. I'm going to make the best possible version that I can, and I'm going to make it to my vision. And like every time you interact with one of those movies, like it's just a special time. So.
And I think there's enough following on like the Western civilization side of the world
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
has like this. The studio has such a big enough following that like they don't need to worry about like the average viewer. They know they have a substantial fan base here that's going to see it and still pump the numbers for the for the box office.
Right, but I think if you're going to see this movie for Robert Pattinson's voice
Yeah, don't.
overall, like you're A, gonna be surprised, and B,
Very.
like you're gonna be kind of like, I can see you coming to this movie and not feeling satisfied because it is not meeting your expectations of what a quote unquote kids movie is or anything
100%.
like that. But yeah, on an emotional level, like I said, this movie just wrecked me. Like I was
It's
just
really it's such a cool thing that it can be, depending on what age of bracketeer you're in or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. It's a very emotionally mature movie, and they also dumb it down enough to the point where it still kind of ties into aspects of death or whatever
Right.
you want to be able to
Take
show
from
a 14-year-old.
right. Blake, I'll kick it on over to you, man, as our Ghibli outsider and our our newest convert over to anime as much.
Yeah. I would say I went in and I watched the dubbed, right, as we kind of chatted before, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with that cast as Adam laid out, excuse me. I liked it, of course. I mean, I guess I kind of went into this having watched Spirited Away, and I was like, did anyone expect this to like not be a good movie by any chance, right?
Right.
No.
So it pretty much hit everything that I was looking for. I didn't have a ton of children in my showing though either, so maybe
I
I
had
just
none.
kind of went at a yeah. So I think Adam, what time did you go at?
So I should clarify. I have seen this now twice.
Oh, you see, you're
Dubbed.
back to back 2 weeks in a row
I
on pod.
yeah.
So
So to get this out of the way a little bit, I saw this not opening night, but actually it might have been opening night. It was pretty close to it at least. But yeah, I saw this. This would have been like an 8 o'clock showing or 7:45 around there. Maybe a little bit earlier. No, it was a little bit earlier. It was like a 5:36 showing. At Barrington IMAX dub screening. And it was pretty full theater, which I was like happy to see. A little surprised by, a little more packed than I was expecting, but very happy to see. But also like quite a few kids between the ages of like 7 to 13 in that range with like their parents and stuff. And yeah, saw it with some friends of mine, or my friend and his girlfriend, and they were saying the same thing too. Like we were just not expecting so many kids to be there, and like after the movie was over, we like looked up the rating, like was this actually like rated for kids? And of course it wasn't, because there was some not terribly graphic stuff, but more mature themes. So yeah, that had a few kids in that screening, and then like I saw it again last night with Papa Schwartz, and
Nice.
I weren't too many kids there, but I think there was one group of kids around that age, but not too many there. But when I saw it opening night, there was quite a few actually, more than I was expecting.
Interesting.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't have any of that. It was pretty much a handful of adults in mind, but I think everyone went in having known the cast, having known the director, having known the production studio of kind of what we were signing up for, quote unquote. And I would say they've delivered once again. I don't really know their entire track record of how many films they have made. I believe we have one on pod. Do we have two on pod?
Just one, Spirited Away.
Just one, right?
Spirited
Just
Away,
Spirited Away. Okay, they didn't do the Weathering with You.
No,
other
that's
joint? I'm sorry.
that's what is that guy's name? Makoto Shinkai, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's Shinkai.
I gotcha. So yeah, but like so I'm saying, just from my kind of track record of seeing Spirited Away, I was like, oh, I think I'm invested in that, and they definitely hit the nail on the head. The dubbed cast on this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Rob Pattinson is great,
Mhm.
and he's quietly growing on me. I mean, he had the
He's your
kind
boy.
of
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going there yet, but
He's my boy. He's
getting there, man.
He's my
Yeah,
guy
he's-
now.
He's getting
Creeping
there.
up on
He
my
had
list, dude.
He had the slow start, quote unquote, with the men, right, with the boys,
Sure.
of doing the Twilight series and stuff like that. But then once he kind of
Yeah.
got out of that and started doing some
Blake, have you seen Good Time by chance?
Oh yeah, that's a good
no,
one.
I don't.
That's
so.
a good one. Have you seen Uncut Gems?
Yes.
It's the same directors. In my opinion, it's much better than Uncut Gems.
Ooh, that is a big
same-
call. That is a
I
big
stand
call.
by it.
It's got
I
Robert
stand
Pattinson?
by it. I think Good
It is
Time
got
is better
Robert
than Uncut
Pattinson.
Gems. But yes, it's Robert Pattinson in the lead, and it's the same kind of idea of Uncut Gems, where it's just kind of like an uneasy story, and it's adrenaline, and you're kind of on the edge of your seat for like not great reasons, just kind of anxiety-inducing kind of movie. And I think it's better than Uncut Gems personally.
Okay.
I
So,
wasn't
yeah,
really a
that's
fan
our
of Uncut
bets.
Gems.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
like what'd you say?
I said I wasn't really a fan of Uncut Gems.
I wasn't. I thought I liked it, but everyone hyped it up so much,
I
and I
know.
was
I
just
think maybe that's
not
what it was for
as
me.
in.
Is there was just too much.
Maybe.
The hype train was just too much, and then when I saw it, I
Maybe.
was kind of like,
Yeah.
But
it's good.
Didn't I show you
I
it?
saw.
I don't think so.
No?
We might have
Okay.
watched
I've only seen
together,
that
but
once, to
I
be
obviously
honest
knew
with you.
about it before.
I love Uncut Gems.
But
Have you
Good
seen it
Time was
multiple
like.
times?
Mm-hmm. I saw it in theaters, and then I've seen it probably twice since then.
Yeah, I think I've only seen it once.
Kevin Garnett's the unsung hero of that movie, actually.
He
Kevin
is.
Garnett. We're all over the place, but yeah, Kevin Garnett is quietly
He's
the
really
funniest athlete, the funniest athlete like living right now, unintentionally. Kevin Garnett is hilarious. I can listen to him talk on any podcast of all the sports
He's got a
podcasts I listen
podcast,
to.
doesn't he?
People, yeah, he's got his own too. But anytime he
Yeah.
kind of pops up on something, it's always like, oh shit, Kevin Garnett's talking. I'm listening. You know.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
Anyways,
yeah,
off
funny
Uncut
story.
Gems. You should check out Good Time. It's a great movie. But
Good
back
Time
to
is
back to
fantastic.
our Pats and Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, so he's great in this, and
He
yeah,
plays
I
the
guess I
Heron.
just-
Yes.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. Which is something I wouldn't have picked up on right away. I mean,
Yeah,
I
you
You
would
would
knew
never,
it
if
going
you didn't
into
know
it.
he was in this movie, you would
For sure.
not in a million years guess that was Robert Pattinson.
Right. So I would love to see him do more voice acting, which is a skill in itself.
It is.
I want to
as I'm
see the
sure you
behind the
all know.
scenes of him recording his lines.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
yeah,
that's
I'm
gonna be
I'm
sure.
all in on that. Good story, good cast, and we'll deep dive a little bit more, but we'll keep it short for the sake of time. I would highly recommend for sure.
Yeah, and then to round out these non-spoiler thoughts, as I mentioned before, seen it twice. Dub both times, unfortunately. It was up in the air whether Papa Schwartz was going to come see the movie with me or not. I was going to see it a second time regardless, and so if Papa Schwartz wasn't coming with me, it probably would have been a sub screening for me. But he ended up coming, and I just didn't want to subject him to the sub, but I figured he'd enjoy the dub more. And the show times worked out better anyway, so ended up seeing it dub both times. The reason I'm desperate to see it sub is I think I felt like the translation was a little weird in this one, where just some of the lines and the timing of it and how they're kind of stacked up. I don't know.
I feel like
'Cause-
you're
'cause
always
typically-
going to feel like that, especially if
Yeah.
you're like very
Yeah.
familiar with going from sub and dubs and and different
Sure.
things. But Studio Ghibli is one of those studios where you can almost guarantee that it is going to be the best possible translation that you can possibly get, because this ain't no fucking joke.
Well,
them.
nowadays,
Yeah.
because like there was
Yeah.
there was a time, because I remember Kiki's is like completely different.
There's all yeah.
and Nausicaa is also very, very different as
Yeah.
well too. Because there used to be little history for you folks, but it used to be that the Ghibli movies got released in America and they were distributed by Disney. And
Unfortunate.
Disney would add extra lines of dialogue or extra moments where, like, if you watch this movie, there's a lot of quiet moments in it. There's a lot of different interactions and that kind of thing, or you're spending time with Mahito where it is just very quiet, and that's something that is across all Ghibli movies in some ways. And it used to be that they would fill in a lot of that stuff, but now it's gotten a lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because when like my viewing, obviously with the subs, it like the dialogue is almost non-existent through the first
Yeah.
act of the movie.
Yeah. It's really until he goes to the other world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the same relatively in the dub. I just felt like there were some things that I could tell were just not being mistranslated. What I feel like always happens with the dub is it's obviously translated to English directly for like a English subtitle translation, which is already losing some context. So you just don't have a one-to-one translation all the time. And then you have a second translation when they translate it into spoken English, where they have to match up the syllables and the words to this character's mouth moving. And so when you do that, you are just bound to lose the translation of what's actually being said. And so I was really trying in this one I really want to see the comparison in this one to like how the dub and that translation that we see and with the English spoken translates to like what the subtitles are in the Japanese, because those are usually a little bit tighter or closely tied to what the actual Japanese is.
Right.
So that's how it felt coming out of the first one. So I really wanted to see the sub. I might still, if there are screenings available this weekend, I might still go and try to see the sub if it's still up. But regardless, seeing it twice now, felt great both times. I as Tyler kind of touched on, it's not a Ghibli film where like this is instantly jumping to the top of my list. I think Spirited Away, and now that I've seen Howl's Moving Castle, which has sat very well with me and might top Spirited Away as my favorite
Wow.
Ghibli. I'm gonna have to give it more time and maybe another rewatch, and maybe watch that one in sub as well, because I watched the dub for Howl's. But that one I really enjoyed, and I've got just bought a steelbook of Spirited Away. Like I've got some favorites of mine already, and so it's gonna be hard to top. But that being said, I still really enjoyed this one. As came away like a little confused here and there, and that's another reason I wanted to see the sub, is that would clear some stuff up. And it's not that as you mentioned, Nathaniel, where I was like needed things explained to me more and more. It just actual story beats that I was like, how does that tie to that, and not like, oh, why is this man transformed into a heron, like that kind of thing. I guess we're non-spoilers, maybe I shouldn't say that.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, it's not that big of a spoiler. Yeah, it wasn't like that kind of thing that I wouldn't explain. It was actually just like story beats that were like a little lost on me. And even after a second time, I caught up a little bit on what was going on, but still a little bit there that I was confused about. But regardless, story's really great. Really fun, dreamlike, as you would expect any Ghibli film to be, but almost more so in this one. I think Spirited Away definitely gives me dreamlike feels, especially, which is how that story's set up, and like you're in a very normal world, and all of a sudden you are just in this dreamlike state with all these creatures and everything. This is more of like a slow roll into that, and the way that the story's set up, where like things just happen, and you don't get an explanation or even really want or need an explanation. Like it felt very dreams like to me, where like dreams happen and you don't have an explanation for where the dream's going next. And that's how this movie kind of played out for me, and I really, really enjoyed it because of that. Animation, as we touched on before, stellar. Like this might be my favorite looking Ghibli film. Ghibli pronunciation pending. But this might be one of my favorite looking like films of theirs, or favorite looking animated film period. Like the kind of graininess and texture to the animation to make it look like it's a 30s 40s 50s style anime was really, really well done. Yeah, I really loved looking at it. And I think what no one's touched on for me that really stood out both times I watched it was the score. Like the music in this movie is kind of what ties it together almost. Like just as you mentioned, Nathaniel, not a lot of spoken dialogue, especially in the first act of the movie. And still throughout the movie, there's not a ton of like back and forth between characters a lot of the time. It's kind of more slower moving pieces. But the way the score fills in those gaps, it ties it all together so beautifully. The piano, the like slow chords of the piano that build up, and just hits you every time it comes on, and gives this somewhat dreamlike feel to it. Yeah, I just really fell in love with the score here. And overall as a movie, I did really enjoy it. Not gonna be my favorite Ghibli, but an absolute recommend. Another big classic Ghibli film to like add to the collection. You know, as you said, I think will age very well. And I'm very excited to kind of rewatch it and maybe understand a little bit more about it as I kind of either read into it or just watch it more and more time. But huge fan of this one. I would highly recommend if you can go see it in theaters. Always fun seeing. I love watching anime on the big screen. I haven't gotten too many opportunities to do so. I was lucky enough to see Spirited Away when Fandango was doing like a Studio Ghibli fest. So I saw Spirited Away in theaters, and I think that might be the only one. Maybe one other one. But yeah, always jazzed to see anime on the big screen like that. It's gorgeous. So if you can see it in theaters, would recommend doing so. It's only in theaters. I don't know how they extended the run already.
Yeah, through maybe through the 24th or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Weird. Also, we
so-
haven't even addressed the fact that we've 2 weeks in a row we're in a period piece Japanese movie. And then
Well, I was gonna bring that up.
quietly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna bring that up. It's an odd little double feature to go back to back.
yeah, and then if you throw in there like an Oppenheimer from earlier this year, I think this is the year of America realizing that we fucked up Japan.
It might be. It might be. Oh man, I'm looking right now. There are showtimes through Sunday, the 24th, as of right now.
There you go.
Only dub. Only dub.
I'm
They-
probably
they
gonna
got
go
rid of
see it
sub.
again in dub.
I would recommend it.
I wanna
man.
s-
Yeah.
I want to see it in sub, but it looks
This
like they got
this
rid
for
of it.
me is like the movie of like the holiday season where like if you got 2 hours, just like go see it, man.
Yeah.
Like don't
It's
see
the winter. You don't have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Like, just go cuddle up and watch this movie. You know. Yeah,
Spoiler
I feel like
time?
this is a good time of year for the movie. I believe so. Yeah. We're gonna go ahead then. We're all recommend then. Yeah.
recommend
Yes.
for me.
Cool. Then we're gonna go ahead and head into spoilers. So if you've not seen The Boy and the Heron, go ahead check the episode description. Sorry, where you can find the timestamp I've left for you, where you'll be taken to our ranking of the movie up upon the entry list.
Hop on.
Spoiler time, Nathaniel.
Shit goes down.
Well, harp action.
A little harp action. Hell yeah. Some chimes, some harps, you know.
Mm.
We're in a dream world. Okay, so spoiler time. I read the grand uncle feature character as Miyazaki.
Uh-huh.
So like if you consider him Miyazaki and he's built this world, which is Studio Ghibli or Ghibli, if you want to call it that, this world of dreams. And he is now passing it on to his grandson or asking him if he wants to take hold of it,
Who is Mahito?
who is Mahito. And in
Maito.
and in this film, it raises the question of like, if you want to, you don't have to take this. You can, or you won't. And I think all that's tied into with like the blocks as well. And then Mahito talks about like, well, those are the blocks of gravestones. And it's like, for me, it was this huge metaphor about what you create and how it will change you and change and that you don't have control. That whenever you create something, if you create it with this harmonious, perfect world
With
in
the
mind,
intentions.
there will always be something that changes it
Life.
and corrupts it and brings that into it. And you have to decide, do you want to live in that world, or are you going to exist and continue to get emotionally fucked up or deal with the pain of the real world and kind of how you have to come to terms with that
How you
as you
live?
grow up. How do you live? Yes, exactly. And like that for me was just this perfect crystal clear metaphor that worked for, which is again why I was wrecked by the end of this.
Yeah.
Like, and just the whole thing with his mom at the start of it, that was so harrowing. And like, if
The animation on that alone.
oh yeah, exactly.
The
Like,
flames is just.
I couldn't think
Yeah,
of
the flames
insane.
were
I've never seen anything like
So
that in a
good.
Ghibli movie. Like, and it was immediately like I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, like this is
Yeah.
something that I haven't seen before. Studio Ghibli movies always have that kind of hand drawn, but like almost rickety style to it
Yeah.
as well. He's so good at finding details in movement. And
The
how,
other one
Yep.
that like really blew me away
Mm.
is when she, I can't remember her name, but she tells him to cut the fish. Now it's your
Oh
turn.
yeah,
And
Kiriko.
all
Yeah.
the guts
Yeah,
come
start
out. Like,
coming out.
that
Florence Pugh.
was magic.
Yeah.
Blake, were you saying something, or was that Adam that was talking right there?
No, I was just agreeing with what Ty was saying. I
Yeah.
didn't have any real input
I
there.
shouted out Florence Pugh because that's who she plays.
That yeah, Florence Pugh. But yeah, and then I think just like that. Anyways, that was my reading of it. Not necessarily that the grand uncle was like a mentor figure, but that was more Miyazaki and kind of like him handing it on and that kind of thing. And that's where, to me, it felt like, oh man, I'm viewing this guy's like journal or his diary or something like that. Like it felt intensely personal to me, as well as working on all these other different levels as well too. So yeah, that's where I just kind of found my emotional attachment to it and everything like that.
See, that's what I thought coming out of my original screening as well. And I think that's, if you know the background of Miyazaki up until this point, I think is a easy place, or like you wouldn't be wrong for assuming that. And I don't remember where it was that I read about all that.
Yeah,
Other stuff
and
with
there's no
mentors
reason
and
it can't be
stuff.
both those things too.
It could be both of those. Yeah, exactly. He could have baked a lot of stuff into this, and or maybe he wanted it to be both ways, or maybe he saw really. You could also say he saw that relationship between the mentor he had and himself is the same relationship he has to
With
his
his
son,
grandson.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So, or maybe Miyazaki is the Heron in this, and
I think he is in some ways. Like,
yeah,
yeah, no doubt,
yeah.
no doubt. The Heron.
Yeah,
Right.
that's like the cool part is you could literally plug him into like 3 different characters in this movie, and it still relatively makes sense to being some kind of portrayal of his life.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
Adam
I
said,
think that says a lot in
semi-autobiographical.
and of itself, that like he sees some cycles almost, or some relationships that he can see
Oh, yeah.
himself on the other side of too. I think that's certainly baked in a little bit.
I think regardless of what you think about Ghibli or Miyazaki or anything like that, you cannot deny that man like sees more than like the normal human. Like he's got a handle on like the human condition, and just on like how bitter and painful and hopeful it can be as well, and joyous, and like they mix that so strongly in these movies.
Yeah, and all of his movies have a lot. I wouldn't say all of his movies. I see a big tie, obviously, just because of the characters between Spirited Away and this one, just the age of them, and them being
Yeah, and
kids
I
finding
think
themselves lost in this dream world. But
structurally
he has a lot to say about growing up and the imagination we have when we're younger. And even the Heron at the end goes, "It's okay. You're not going to remember this anyway, or at least you
Right,
shouldn't." And it's
right.
like that hits home for me, especially because I feel like I have so many of those things where it's like, oh, I kind of remember
this one
certain like
time, yeah.
dreams I had, or imaginations, or like stories I remember would make up when I was a kid, and like those things always hit home for me. And the fact that he was like, "Oh, you're not supposed to remember this." It's very similar for me to Your Name, where
Hmm.
they only dreamed of each other, and that's why they forgot their names. Like you don't remember your dreams
Sure.
all that well certain amounts of time after they happen, or at least most dreams you don't. And that's a very similar kind of theme there, where like you're not gonna remember all that stuff that either you dreamt or thought of as a kid, and like there are some things that are just going to fade away, and that is certainly touched on this one, and that's also what hits home for me, especially.
Blake, any bigger thoughts?
Not quite. I mean, honestly, this is pretty much a new venture for me. So I've watched anime
Right.
a little bit in my college years, right? But as far as watching them in a cinematic film sense, my introduction to that is it Weathering with You? Is that the first one we did?
I think Your Name was the first one we did.
Your Name. Thank you. Weathering with You is the second one.
Yeah. Yep.
Of that, correct? Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of new to it in that, so I'm starting to understand like cultural themes and stuff that usually come along. And I would say from watching this though, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite of the bunch, I would say.
Your Name's just so accessible. Like it is just it's so easy to fall into, and it's such a great little romance story and everything, you know.
Yeah, it is. And to Tyler's point, I wish I could have seen some of this stuff like during my introduction to anime like 10 years ago.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think that really would have hit home with me much harder than now. But overall, though, I mean, I still do like it. I still like the message. Even the cultural themes, as I kind of mentioned earlier, stuff is interesting. We're not being from that background, and you can start to pick up on different cues through watching a handful of source material from that culture. So I'm sure that stuff is even more abundant for you.
Well, I mean, like navigating, like my parents being divorced, navigating that as a child is hard enough. Not to mention like losing a
we didn't even address
parent,
that.
But like the fact that
his dad marries the aunt.
Well, yeah. So like the Japanese culture in general, like if you get divorced, like you're already kind of like somewhat like shunned,
ostracized,
for that. And so yeah, the fact that it's maybe they didn't get divorced, whatever,
right, sure,
widowed,
yeah.
But the fact that
By
you're
us, by the
Yeah.
way. That was
Yeah.
America. We
Yep.
firebombed Tokyo.
we sure did.
Let's not shy away from that. Yeah, that's our
Um,
hospital. It's our fault. for
My
that
bad.
hospital.
Yep. And so, just trying to navigate those emotions as a kid, and coming to the realization that even though it is your aunt, there is somebody that is willing to look out for you as a parent,
As a mother. Yeah.
and you coming to the realization that you're now gonna call her mom.
Yeah.
That shit's deep, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking, and that's kind of like where it tied in for me is
Sure.
I have 2 step parents in my life, and the bond that I have with them is pretty incredible, and the fact that they're willing to come into my life and raise me
Sure.
as their kid, I think that's where my bigger emotional tie was. And it's like same thing with like
Godzilla last week.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like Justin,
Yeah.
taking Wyatt under his wing, like that's
family.
that's a wild journey
Yeah.
that I couldn't even begin to imagine to navigate. And so yeah, shout out step parents in general, and trying to take on that kind of
The role.
that in general. And so yeah, that's pretty crazy to try and navigate. But yeah.
Yeah, this movie also reminded me of an old interview I saw with Guillermo del Toro, and where he was talking about and he's obviously good friends with the Ghibli guys as well as like Hideo Kojima and on the
Ghibli.
yeah, on the video game side of things as well too. But I remember an old interview with him, and he's like, I hate the Hollywood child, this brainless kind of only there to like run, give you one-liners and like just be an annoying pest and that kind of thing. Like that's not what children are. They're little humans. Like they're just as complex as us and just as open and if not more so, like they're open to everything in the world, right? And like that is such a beautiful thing to capture and a beautiful thing to try and make into a film. And I like that is such a more I don't know, like I wish I grew up with more examples of that. I wish I grew up with more examples of these fully fledged child characters,
Sure.
where it is I'm struggling with these things and I'm worrying about growing up and I don't know this world that I've suddenly been thrust into and like everything's changed on a dime, as it can so often happen when you're a child, where your whole world completely changes overnight.
100%.
And that can be so affecting and so so aggressive. And I think to have a movie that does, I think a lot of Ghibli movies take over that, or Ghibli movies, but I think this is a very crystallized version of that, a very very strong metaphor towards that.
Yeah, it's definitely more streamlined than maybe some of the other ones.
Yeah, and I think I think Miyazaki movies a lot of times that you can kind of categorize them into set in the real world, and then you find the dream world or the strange world, and then there's other ones that are set completely in different worlds. Right. Your Kikis and your
Howls.
your Howl's Moving Castles, and it's much more strange and much more magical. And this is an example again of the latter version, where it is you start in the real world and then you go to somewhere else, more akin to a Spirited Away.
A kid would do.
Right, exactly.
A kid is going to try and
that's a
find
famous storyline for children.
Going to try and
doesn't
find a world that they can try and comprehend whatever's going on.
Who doesn't want to escape from the drudgery of everyday life?
Exactly.
I've talked a lot. Someone else talk now, please.
No, you're good. I definitely agree with that point of like, and I already touched on this a little bit before, but like you, as a kid, we were always looking for those
magical moments.
Not escapes, but just those magical moments, and you're always imagining a world bigger than what it was, and it's not that goes away intentionally. It just kind of happens where like
it gets filled in. The world starts to becomes more concrete around you. Yeah, exactly.
You as an adult start to understand that you can't necessarily run away from those things, and you kind of need to fight those things head on, or come to the realization that like it's not going away. This is a problem that you emotionally need to deal with. Versus
and just like
going away.
That's going to be a whole life thing. Like recently we were talking before the podcast. I've been reading the book Killers of the Flowers Moon after the movie as well too, and like just learning about like what the Native American experience was, where they didn't own anything. Everyone worked together. If you killed a buffalo, you took every part of it, and it became part of your group and everything like that. And then white people came in and said, "Hey, fuck you.
Yep.
This whole land is now ours. It's all going to be portioned out.
Sponsors.
And it's all, yeah, exactly. It's all going to be this way, and it's going to be set up, and you're all going to be screwed by it." And
Yep.
it's like, to have that version of the world completely changed by someone else coming in it's painful, man. Like it's weird to think about. Yeah, and it is one of those things. As you grow up, you learn more and more that the world that you are experiencing has not always been this way, and that there was a completely different way it could have been, or it could have been, as said in the movie. Do you want to be living in a harmonious world, or do you want to deal with the chaos of the real world? And it's I don't know. Like I said, it really spoke to me on a lot of those levels. And
Good.
I was wrecked by the end of it, but yeah.
Do we have any specific story beats or scenes or anything that we want to touch on?
Yeah, I guess we haven't even talked about all that much.
In which, like, a movie like this, we want to speak on those overarching themes, but like anything within the movie itself that we want to touch on.
I think the fish thing from an animation standpoint was like one of my biggest things. Seeing all those guts spill out.
Oh, sure.
It's just
and the Wara Wara come
yep.
in and
Wara Wara.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do. And it's always just done so phenomenally. And then the other part would be the Wara Wara. They say they're flying to go be part of the new world up there.
We suddenly became Soul.
Yep, exactly.
Exactly what I thought of. Yeah, without a doubt.
So yeah, that was the other thing. And some of those themes in here are a little contradicting. But yeah, I guess it's all kind of interpretation.
That for me was one of the more affecting scenes too, where the Wara Wara, were going up, and then they started getting attacked by the pelicans, and then the
I was just about to say the pelicans.
Yeah, and then Hime comes in and starts burning everything, and you are in the same position as Mahito. You don't know who's good, you don't know who's bad, you don't know what's going on. It doesn't explain any of that to you, and you're just kind of left trying to figure out where everything's going, and that's a very human experience in a lot of ways.
And then like being where we're at in our lives, you learn that like some things just have to be sacrificed for the betterment of the majority, or whatever, how you want to explain that.
And for me, that was one of the more affecting scenes afterwards, where you had the seagull, which in the dub is played by William Dafoe.
Pelican.
Or excuse me, the Pelican. Yeah, Willem.
Yeah.
And he gives that great speech of like, "This is my nature." Basically, I was brought here to do this, and that for me again was just that moment of like, you as a person don't know what's going on ever.
You came here, you were put in that position,
right?
And
Exactly.
you kind of had to do what you had to do, and somebody else changed it to where you had to format.
That's the laws of nature,
Yep.
and yeah.
Right.
That was my kind of, I think, scene where I really bought in to what the movie was doing overall.
I agree wholeheartedly. I was going to speak on the Willem Dafoe Pelican scene where he's just like, we are just trying to survive. Like, this is just all our kind can do to survive. And like, yes, it looks bad, but like, what else do you want us to do? This was our purpose, was to kind of keep the Wara Wara in check. Like, not every single one of them can go to the surface, and like just that idea of like starting to understand there are bad things that happen, but they happen for a reason, and you don't know what that reason is, or you don't know what the other side of that perspective is.
Or even if the reason is to keep the world moving. Like, that is just something you have to deal with.
Right. Yeah. Definitely another scene, where I also would agree. I kind of was like, oh, this is getting at something way bigger than we've been presented already. This movie, that's kind of where it took a turn. And Willem Dafoe has maybe all of like 2 minutes of screen time and changes the whole movie for me. Yeah. And I think they're not technically on screen together for that long. I don't think they have any overlapping lines, because then Robert Pattinson comes in and he's like, he was such a good bird, like, rest in peace or whatever. And I was like, damn, we're so close to a lighthouse reunion. Just this close
It's
to a
bad
lighthouse.
luck to kill a seabird.
Yeah. But bad luck to kill a pelican. Wait, Willem Dafoe plays a seabird. No way.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh
Yeah,
God, it
yeah,
all
full
comes full
circle moment.
circle.
Full circle.
Oh no.
For sure.
Speaking of which, are you
Oh
guys
my God.
you guys seen the stills from the new Nosferatu where
No.
Willem Dafoe is playing a
No.
vampire hunter? Oh man, like it's Robert
No, I
Eggers
haven't
again
looked them
too, and like
Oh, is it really?
yeah, he's looking real good. Like,
I might wait.
I've seen one still. It's like him kind of like in like a tomb with like a torch, and he's looking like he's
I'm
having the
seeing it.
best life.
Oh my God, this looks incredible.
Hell yeah.
All right, now I'm really excited for that too. Okay. Any other big touching points?
I
I
thought-
thought David Bautista showing up as Parakeet King was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was one thing I was gonna say. I thought the humorous moments in this were actually pretty funny as well too. Like there was a
they
couple
came
different times where you had like the heron like drops down into a window or something, or like
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and
Yep.
like just different stuff. Like it was funny as well too. Like there was moments of levity in there.
We're gonna have to
Yeah, I
do
love
like
when
a 4-hour back-to-back sub dub to
Boy and the Heron, yeah.
to really get
Marathon.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Well, the good news is if you watch both of those back-to-back, you still only watched one extended version of Lord of the Rings.
It's true. Or
Snyder Cut.
still less than the Snyder Cut.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would still much rather watch this movie than Snyder Cut.
I would watch any Miyazaki movie back to back before I would watch the Snyder Cut again. I'm just gonna make that blanket statement here.
All right. Well, do we
One
have
last
any
thing-
other big points? Yeah. you
One
were
last
gonna
thing
say something.
I will harp on is I love that Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli are not at all interested in making beautiful characters. Make ugly characters,
I
make
love it.
interesting
So
characters.
good.
Like
It's lived in.
yes,
It's real.
yeah, like the pelican when he's dying. That's the grossest looking pelican I've ever seen, and
He's
like
fucking bloody.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
the heron's horrifying to look at, and especially when he starts like burping a
Morphing,
man
yeah.
out of his mouth and shit. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, what is happening? Why does that bird have teeth?
He's balding.
Yeah, there's so many just kind of weird, unsettling bits in there that I'm just like, that is ugly to look at, but like I'm fascinated. Like I've got to see what happens next.
All of his films have that. This one does have a bit of an edge to it. A little bit. He leans into it almost a little bit more. I feel like in this
Yeah.
one because
I
the
love
other, the other ones it's like monsters that are designed to be monsters. This one it blends the lines a little bit where it's like you don't necessarily
love the
need
grannies.
to make this
love-
design. Yeah, the grannies are great.
all the
And then
seven
they
of
have
the
little
weird
statues.
Yeah, all seven weird kind of old grannies and everything, and yeah,
And then one of them ends up being
Kiriko.
Kiriko.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was a nice touch.
Oh, when the final kind of like bit of the movie where is it Mahi? Hime, excuse me. Hime says like, you are going to be my son, and like I will, I need to go and live my life
Yeah.
now and everything. That really got me from a perspective of like, we don't necessarily know our parents' lives, and like you as a kid, you don't give them their full stake as a human. And like if you were a kid
Yeah.
and your mom died, like I'm never gonna feel like they completed their life, but like her talking to him about that made me feel like, no, the mother, even though she did die, she lived a full life and
Yeah.
a full thing, and that was purposeful to get there and everything. She didn't have any regrets, even though she was the fire being, like that was tied into that a little
Well,
bit
it's
as
cool
well.
too because like the whole theme of like your mom's not dead.
Right.
It's cool because you can interpret it in the fact that like, yeah, her body's gone, but like her spirit is still here.
Sure.
But then you can also look at it from the step parent aspect.
Yep.
Like
Not to
you
go
you
becomes
do
your mom.
have people that are going to look out for you
Right.
regardless of who you lose in your life.
Right.
And they're going to step in, they're going to step up, and they're going to make sure that you get through
Well, and
whatever
he
you're
even
going to get
kind
through.
of confronts his fear with that when
Yeah.
he goes into the birthing room and like he sees her and she's like, I hate you, and
Yep.
I don't want you, and that kind of thing. And I think that's definitely tied into all of that as well
yeah,
too.
100%.
I've talked about this movie so
What a
much.
wild
I'm
movie.
so sorry.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Just dominated this
great.
discussion for the last 30 minutes.
No, you're good, man. I appreciate it. I think we touched on so much, even though we didn't talk about the movie itself too much. I don't think the bigger discussion here is the themes that we've talked about. I think, so I'm very glad.
Yeah,
It's just
very
wild
happy.
because there's movies on this list that we could talk about for like 30 minutes and cover the entire premise.
Yeah, this
of
movie's
the movie.
completely
Right.
dense.
And then there's other movies where you get this and you can talk about it for 3 hours nonstop and probably still not get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can keep going. I'm down.
Well, I've been up since 3:30.
Sounds
for-
like you probably.
for
Where's your
listeners at home,
dedication?
It is 10 o'clock at night now, so
For context.
little peek behind the curtain there.
So when you were like
Blake, did
getting
you
done
have-
with work, I was up for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Blake, did you have any other big points that you wanted to touch on before we head out of spoilers?
No, I think we've kind of hounded in on it, and as we kind of chatted earlier, this is something that's very impactful to the three of you all, from youth to now. So it makes sense you guys would have more abundant thoughts on it, right, than I did. But I would say I would just kind of echo the group here as far as the overarching themes, and it is a movie that I would recommend to people, even if you didn't grow up with anime,
Yeah.
or if you've just got accustomed to it as an adult, because there are messages for all ages and various walks of life.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would agree. I think don't go into the movie expecting to be like, oh, I've listened to Back Row Banter now, and now I understand everything. Like, just kind of go in looking for
You'll come up
being
with your
open.
own interpretation.
Yeah, I
of it.
think that's
And that's
really
the
a
best
part
thing
of
about it.
Yeah,
That it is. Yeah, it's the best thing about it is
I-
you see
all those movies
your
too.
own.
I know. Yeah,
You'll-
exactly. I love that it's
like
not
anything from Ghibli. You'll find your own way through it.
it's not this expository. You got to go and defeat the
Yeah.
evil man so that you can save the princess or anything. This is fucking life, bro.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
Well, same thing with the Parakeet King.
Yeah.
He was like, you could interpret him as a bad guy, but he was also just making sure that like his
Yeah.
people and
Kingdom.
that they survived and
Right.
that they were getting done by, he was doing good by them. And so there's so much.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I knew immediately
enough
as soon
Parakeet
as
King.
he started talking, I was like, "That's Dave Bautista, motherfucker."
Oh yeah, he opens his mouth. I was like, oh hey Dave, guys, you were here.
Yeah,
It's so
same-
lost and everything else.
Same thing with Dad and Christian Bale too. Like as soon as you hear him speak, I was like, "That's
Yeah.
fucking Christian Bale."
Yeah. Hey Batman. Two Batmans in this movie.
There you go.
Just realized that.
Yeah, for sure. I thought of that too while I was sitting there.
Yeah.
And a Black
George.
Widow.
And a Joker.
Black Widow. We got it all. This is basically a Batman animated film. All right.
Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who I think was actually doing a good. He wasn't doing the Joker. He was doing his old
That's usually
man.
that's kind of his go-to. But he's got, I
When he
mean,
goes- when he
dude,
voice acts, he doesn't usually go that direction.
yeah, voice acting's crazy.
He's such a good voice actor. He might be a better voice actor than he is.
There's a lot of
actor.
them. So yeah, I get kind of like backstory. Christian Bale
Yeah.
saw his first Studio Ghibli film and was like, I have to be a part of this universe.
And then he became Hal.
And he became Hal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
That's
just
awesome.
auditioned for like a very like back part, and Miyazaki was like, no, like you're
Hal.
You're Hal.
That's awesome. Yeah, I put on Howl's Moving Castle not realizing it was Christian Bale until he kind of started talking a little bit more, and I was like, "Is that Batman?"
It's apparently
because that's
apparently
prime
in,
Batman.
in the sub of The Wind Rises, the dad is played by Anno from Evangelion.
Oh, nice.
oh really?
Yeah, apparently Miyazaki was like, "No, this guy's you. You need to play him," kind of thing, more or less.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I need Makoto Shinkai, Hideki Anno, and Hayao Miyazaki to like.
Well,
voice
this one
something together.
This one was animated by one of the guys that did Evangelion rebuilds 1 and 2.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he definitely
Good.
helped in some of this as well too.
Not 3. That's two different.
Well, I
The
guess
animated
it was
guys.
no, I'm sorry. It was Evangelion 3 and 4. It was the rebuilds.
Oh, okay. It was the
Yeah.
rebuilds. I was
Yeah,
gonna say
yeah.
that. Two different anime styles. Man.
No,
You
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
differentiate. God, I like this movie a lot.
It's a good flick.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I think we are gonna head out of spoilers. So or welcome back, listeners who skipped over the spoiler segment of the podcast. We're gonna go ahead and throw The Boy and the Heron up upon our entropy list. For those of you who do not know, the entropy list is our big list of all the movies we have reviewed compared to one another. As we mentioned before, we got a whopping 170 movies now. This will be 170 entering the list. Yeah, this is essentially how we rate our movies rather than do it out of 5 stars out of 10, whatever that is. We throw up all the movies we review on a list and see how they compare to one another. If you want to reference the entropy list for yourself, you can do so by checking the episode description where it is linked to my Letterboxd. Episode, what are we, 173 this week? 172, 173, 173. Cool. It's gonna be an interesting one.
Cool.
Let's see, where's Spirited Away? It's still pretty high up there, isn't it? I think it might. I think it's around
Spirited
here.
Away is like in the 40s, 50s, 45.
45. There it is. Yeah, 45. Below the Northman and above Black Hawk Down. Also, this has got to put Willem Dafoe like top of the end.
Yeah, he's getting right there.
I
Yeah.
agree.
It's
He's up
got to
there.
be because he's a Northman. He's
I'm ready to
in
just call-
Lighthouse.
I'm ready to call Willem Dafoe patron saint of the podcast.
Are we? Are we ready to make that jump?
I think so. I think we are. I think it's Saint Willem at this point.
The argument could be made for St. Willem.
Not opposed.
Yeah, I'm not opposed either. So Spirited Away is definitely the big staple here, the big comparison. Above or below that one, I think, is the big question
Oh man.
for each of us.
So I'll just
I-
be the first to say it.
Go for it.
I have so many more
Yeah.
ties to Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
I can't say that this won't surpass in years to come. From a film standpoint and from an emotional standpoint.
Right. You just never know.
And obviously I've seen Spirited Away infinitely more than what I've seen this, but I will definitely be going back to this. But for now, I just cannot put it above Spirited Away. So I'm gonna be
Very
like
valid.
right at 46. I'm gonna put them right next to each other. I know that's
Right
absurd.
next to each other.
But yeah,
No, it's not. I was low key thinking the same thing. Honestly, I was
it's
like,
so
maybe
good, and I think it has potential to be probably a little bit higher.
I'm sorry.
but-
Say that again. You. I hit a button on the recorder real quick. So you said it. You feel like it's real good and you have potential to be higher.
Yeah, it is really, really good, and I think the more I watch it, the more I'm going to enjoy it and love it for years to come. But yeah, I'm gonna stick this right behind Spirited Away, and I don't care if you don't like that they're right next to each other. You can suck my ass.
Fair enough.
that is your right. I don't know if I want to. I kind of like don't mind putting it right behind it, but
There's some bangers on there too, guys. Like
There is.
we need to
But,
talk
like,
about
yeah.
around Spirited Away. We got Northman above it, got Training Day above it, Kill Bill Volume 1 above it, and then you got Black Hawk Down, The Conjuring, and John Wick below it, followed by Nope as well too, and Scream.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm liking, for me personally, I'm liking 56, right below Barbie and above Doctor Strange.
See, Barbie was another one that I thought about as well too, and kind of that
I
same.
really enjoyed
spot.
Barbie, and I'm
just-
still
I
very high on
Just
it.
rewatched that.
It's so good.
Yeah, we watched
Yeah.
that. I think
Yeah.
last night or the night before.
I think.
Yeah,
I think going off that, I have my spot as well too. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
what are you
Alright,
what are you
I'm-
thinking then, Nathaniel?
I'm gonna lock mine in at 56 before someone else goes.
Mhm.
Below
Okay.
Barbie, above Doctor Strange. That's where I'm locking in.
I'm gonna go 51. It's gonna be below Scream and above Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
That was kind of my other spot. Although I
For
probably
sure.
would put it above Scream, but no. But yeah, right above Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
is kind of my
I
spot,
think
obviously.
Nightcrawler would really be my other one in there because I really like that movie as well too. American
Yeah,
Psycho,
yeah.
Boys in the Hood, Barbie around there. But like, in terms of an emotional impact for me, I think this movie just kind of cuts right through that on that side of stuff. And if we're talking about movies are emotional. Movies are emotional art pieces. So, yeah, I'm gonna go 51, below Scream, above Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Valid.
And that's again, like, I don't know if I might put it above Spirited Away, but that's almost the other movies around there as well too, like kind of bringing that home for me. So
Is
I
Spirited Away in this better than Your Name?
no. I mean,
No, if we're talking about, hey, take over my kingdom, Miyazaki's handing over to Makoto Shinkai because he will.
I don't know, man. I think he might be
the
handing
next
over
dude.
to Ano. Ano's his
Okay,
boy.
well, that's more of like, yes, yeah, if he's handing the reins over to anybody, it would be
Sure.
Ano. I'm just saying in terms of like, hey, you're gonna make movies
Popularity,
that hit mainstream, popular, and you're gonna build a discography that will be remembered. Makoto Shinkai has 3 in a row now that are all fantastic, and I love each and every one of them. So, Your Name is so good.
You need to see what was that one that Mirai?
Initial D. No.
That and Initial D, yes.
Redline, we reviewed that one. Nathaniel.
No, Mirai. That might have been a Shinkai too.
Redline was so good.
Mirai, spell it for me.
Mirai, I believe.
So I thought.
Or maybe.
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, here it is, 2018.
That is
Mamoru
Hosoda.
Yeah.
Hosoda.
That one, that was also a really good one. Would recommend.
Okay. I see. I will check it out.
Oh, he did Summer Wars as well too, and The Girl Who Jumped
Oh,
in
I've
Time.
heard of Summer Wars. You've talked about Summer Wars before. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. No, he's awesome. That would be another one
Okay.
we could deep dive at some point. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Continuing.
Blake, I think you're last one here.
Yeah. Adam going with the 56. He's cooking with Grush right there.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was looking. There we have the, what is it, 4 in a row of superhero films,
Yep.
anti-hero films, I guess, if you include Deadpool. in
Yeah,
there.
it's gonna be like 6 years of entropy list revisions before that's
Yeah.
fixed.
Right. So I was like, okay, like I would put it above all of those. The American Psycho at 53 is kind of difficult for me, but then I also like this more than Guardians of the Galaxy, as big on that genre. So I think so I can split the difference. I can't put it above American Psycho. I'm gonna have to go 56. So I'm gonna rock with what Adam's saying. I think that's a good portion. And to Nathaniel's point of kind of painting the picture so everybody can see it, 56 would be below Barbie and then above Doctor Verse of Madness, Shang-Chi, The Suicide Squad, Deadpool, and Kill Bill Volume 2. So then right above Barbie, Boys in the Hood, American Scream. So
There we go.
I think that's a fair part. We'll average it out. I'm sure it'll fall somewhere in there.
Where's that put us,
Hopefully
Adam?
it's-
That puts us at 52.25, meaning we would tiebreak it with Nightcrawler. I am
Above.
not
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah, it can go above that.
Nathaniel's not.
I'll go above Nightcrawler. I
I think that's about right. Above
we can go
Nightcrawler.
above Nightcrawler. Although I did for a second have it below Nightcrawler, and it looks really nice and really kind of funny. Nightcrawler, Boy and the Heron, American Psycho. That's a nice little hilarious little 3 triple feature.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
Couple
know,
of
man,
absolute
Nightcrawler's
lunatics, and then Boy in there.
But you guys want it above?
Yeah, I would like it above Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right. Boy and the Heron lands at 52, below Guardians 3 and above Nightcrawler. There we have it. All right. Well, that's going to conclude our review segment here. Our next review segment will be covering Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Folks,
This will be fun.
yeah. Prepare yourselves. Feel like we'll have 1 or 2 things to say, which is funny because the original 2018 Aquaman, like at the time, I was like, if I was 13, I would love this movie. Yeah.
I've not seen that one. I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I
Black
may rewatch
Manta,
it.
dude, so good.
I'll have to give that a watch before I see the next one.
Will Willem Dafoe come back in Aquaman 2?
Is he in Aquaman?
He's in Aquaman, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Wait, we need him to come back. We need him to keep
Yeah,
climbing.
he is.
Yeah.
Patron saint, guide us.
Yeah, he's like he's like a
He's his mentor.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh wow.
Cool. Join us for Aquaman and Lost Kingdom. That is a new movie, I believe, releasing just in theaters. I thought it wasn't there an article I read that it said it wasn't coming to theaters anymore. It was going straight to Max.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think you're
I remember
imagining
seeing that
that.
somewhere. I might be imagining things. James Wan though, so I mean, who knows?
There is
You
James
never know.
Wan.
Yeah.
Juan James.
Yeah. Join us for a review of that next week. Fellas, it's late. I don't know if we need what we're watching here. We're already
No.
almost
Nope.
to 90 minutes. So let's just skirt any what we're watching and save it for next week. Nathaniel, any 5-star reviews?
No 5-star reviews this week, but folks, if you want to give us a 5-star review, you can do that in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and I will read it out on the podcast.
Cool. We don't have any emails, but you can send us an email as well at backrowbanterpod@gmail.com. While you're doing that, make sure you share the podcast, share with a friend, a family member, a heron or two, parakeet, cranky heron, whoever it is. You know, it doesn't matter. You just, as long as they like podcasts and movies, they're probably gonna like Back Row Banter. So share the podcast if you can. While you're doing that, also make sure you follow us on Twitter at Banter Row, on Instagram at Back Row Banter Pod, and on YouTube we're just Back Row Banter. Short and sweet there. BlakeHolder, where can the people find you at, my man?
Yes, sir. Letterboxd BlakeHolder. I'll be on there logging some things, rating my 5 stars. Things that hit very close home to me or I found a lot of value of. I'll go ahead and write a review on it. That's what you got for me. Let's go to. We'll push it to Nathaniel.
Yeah, folks, you can find me on Letterboxd and Instagram and Twitter. Twitter and Letterboxd at NS Gingrich. Instagram Nathaniel G92. Sandpiper Tapes is my other podcast. Tyler.
Letterboxd, Instagram, and X. Oh,
That is
Tyler
true.
Vidalis. VIDALES. Adam.
You can find me on Twitter at Aish24, on Letterboxd at Aish. And that's it. Yeah, no more Twitch for now. Yeah, well, I think that'll do it here for episode 173 here at Back Row Banter. Thank you all for joining us for our review of Boy and the Heron. We'll be back next week with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. We'll be RB.
Be excellent to each other, everyone, and we'll be RB.
Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate you, and we will BRB.
Thanks for the love and support. We appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to continue this podcast without you. And we'll BRB.
America. Ready for another lesson.
So real quick then, fellas, has Netflix hit any of y'all yet? For that?
No.
Well,
Not yet.
I was part of Foley's, and it hit us like almost immediately. And it was like
Okay.
it's like you're not signed in. This is
I think-
your Wi-Fi.
I think
are
mine's-
you traveling? And so like I
Yeah,
hit him
that's
up.
what it asked me.
Yeah, I hit him up like once for the code, and then it asked us again, and I was like,
Fuck
I'm
it.
just gonna get our own because like I
Yeah.
have T-Mobile, and T-Mobile pays for like half of it.
Right.
So I'm like, all right,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah. Tough. Nathaniel, are you rocking your own, or
I got
have they
mine
hit
still.
you or anybody
Well,
who uses it?
I got mine, but like I actually don't use mine at my apartment. It's really for my mom and my brother. We use Waz. We use Waz's at the apartment, really.
I use mine on my phone the most, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you're still paying for yours, Nathaniel, but it's obviously being used by elsewhere.
Right.
Then you're just using Waz's here. Yeah.
Right.
Adam, have you ventured
Yeah.
into the adult life of paying for your own applications, or you just
not yet.
Not yet?
It's my
Give it a year or two.
brother's. It's been my brother's account on Netflix since my family got one, and he still pays for it. My contribution to the streaming passwords is Disney Plus Hulu bundle.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So that's what I pay for. That's my contribution to my family's little password sharing streaming service cheat. I think, is there a subscription that lets you do more than one home? Like you have to pay extra for it?
Who
I
knows?
I don't even think so because I
Not
think I
anymore,
already
yeah.
have the highest tier of Netflix. If I'm not
I
mistaken,
thought that's
think
what we
it's
had, or
$20
at
a
least
month.
if they ever offered something like that, that's what we had. I have not run into any issues, and I've used Netflix. I think I've been used it last night. So like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't run into that anytime soon. If that does happen, I'll probably split one with my parents while I'm home, and then if I move out of, or when I move out of here, whenever that is, I have no idea if I'd ever pay for Netflix on my own. I don't know if I would.
Yeah. No, I
What
hear
I
you,
kind
man.
of want to start doing with my subscriptions is like I'll just pay for a month and cancel it once I'm done using it. Like I don't know if I don't
Honestly,
need to keep
dude,
shit
that
active.
that takes so much time, but that's such the adult thing to do, and you'll save
It's
so
really,
much money.
but like
Just
I
using it,
organize my
watch the show you want,
subscriptions.
canceling that
All
shit.
my subscriptions are on my Apple ID, so I just go to my
For
phones
sure.
and go to subscriptions, and I can just cancel it.
sure.
And like that's what I've been doing with Apple TV. When it was with Ted Lasso, I was subscribing, and then I canceled it. And like I just feel like that's the best way to go. Like when Halo the show comes back, as
Mm-hmm.
fucking piece of shit that first season was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch the second. You got me hooked.
Yeah.
But I'll pay for a month or two of Paramount Plus, and I'll be done. Whenever I feel like getting around to the Continental, I'll pay for a month of Peacock, and that'll be it. But like, yeah, I feel like that's the way to go. Because like Disney Plus, I would cancel that if it wasn't like my contribution, like other people
Right.
using Disney Plus and Hulu. But like if it was up to me, like I would just probably pay for a month at a time as I like am using a
Mhm.
service that I want to
Yeah,
use.
man, the Disney Plus
Yeah,
ones.
no, I hear ya.
The Disney Plus I actually use for ESPN most, just because I have
Same,
UFC
same.
every week.
But-
yeah.
Mm.
But
See, I don't
get
have that bundle.
ESPN through my dad's Xfinity subscription, his cable subscription.
That's
So
how
like, I don't
get
even
my
need ESPN Plus really.
For sure. Yep. That's
Yeah.
how I get mine too. But yeah, it sucks because I'm the payee for
Right.
Netflix and Hulu, and I was like, oh man, I don't. The Hulu I'll keep, definitely go on there, watch a few things. But the
Yeah.
Netflix, I know my dad watches it a ton. I'm sure my mom even dabbles in there sometimes, but I don't think I'm gonna pull the cord. I think I'm gonna have to just take a fat L, as the kids say.
And what sucks
just
is that
keep
it's like
paying this
it's
$20
working
and
because
not
I've
use
seen
it.
that Netflix subscriptions are going up. Like what they're doing is working, and it's probably gonna go to other platforms eventually.
Yeah.
Which is what is scary.
That's why we all use Tubi, the people streaming service.
Absolutely. Whoever
Tubi's
that
so
guy
good,
is,
bro.
shout
They
out
just
him.
they just put Street Sharks on there.
I'm telling you,
Fucking
man.
so good.
Tubi's the best.
Yeah.
Street Sharks
So
might
as
be
long
before
as
your
Tubi
time,
doesn't
Adam.
crap out on me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this though: have you guys made a Tubi account, or are you just?
Oh, I
like,
got a Tubi account.
Oh, 100%.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck, man, I've been thinking of doing that every time because it doesn't let you resume where
Well,
you're
yeah.
at.
So that and the like if I watch something on my phone and I go onto my TV and try to look at, I
Yeah.
can't. It
Facts.
doesn't. So I just.
yeah, I've been.
And it's cool too, because like when it's you say sign in, all it does is have you scan with your phone,
Right.
And then it just signs you in like
sure.
2 seconds. Super easy.
So I've been bullshitting. Then is what we're saying.
It's worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's really not a big deal. Just
Yeah.
put your email in,
Okay.
fucking get it.
I'm gonna have to do it. All right, man. Well, looks like man, they got John Wick on Tubi and John Wick 2.
They got everything
Hey.
on Tubi, bro.
Tubi's the
So
I know
good.
Tubi's so good. Yeah, I think I'm just counting my losses with the Netflix fellas.
I'm fucking somebody up when Tubi has to be paid for.
Yeah, no. Well, that's when we
What's
burn Fox
crazy
to the ground, or
is it
whoever
will
actually
happen.
owns it.
Yeah. I'm thinking by 2026, Tubi will be a paid service for sure.